I want to share something with you when you're working with decorative stitches on the Janome M17. So when I'm working on this machine and I'm working with decorative stitches, I want to be able to have control over how long that decorative stitch goes for example. So maybe I just want to have one sequence of that stitch or one iteration of that stitch. Or maybe I'm at the edge of my fabric and I need to stop it right away. So I want to show you how to do both of those on the Janome M17 and other Janome models. So when I'm working with decorative stitches, I want to make sure that I've got my regular zigzag needle plate in. I'm also working with the F2 foot right now, so it's going to be wide enough so I can work with those different decorative stitches. And I'm working with stitch D33, so decorative stitch 33 on the machine. So let's see what this stitches out. I'm just going to stitch a little bit of it so we can take a look and see how that stitch is being formed. Okay, so I've done a bit of stitching with D33 and then I've just cut my stitches so I can bring it out and show you. So the stitch itself starts here and goes down to there. So you can see I've got two sequences of that stitch on the fabric right now. But what if I want to have just one of those, that sequence of the stitch? Okay, so how you do that is once you start stitching, you're going to press your lock stitch button on the machine. And that is going to finish the stitch, the complete stitch, and is going to give you some tie-off stitches. So let's try that. Okay, I'm just going to stop stitching. I'm pressing that lock stitch button now and it'll flash. You want to make sure it's flashing so you know it's activated. And I'm going to keep stitching. Okay, so you probably heard the machine kind of slow down a bit. That was not me going back on the foot pedal. That's the machine slowing down, and it takes those few tacking stitches to lock off this design. So you can see it's just one repeat of that stitch and then it stops. So that's by holding the lock stitch button. But what if I'm stitching along, maybe I'm getting to the end of my fabric or the edge of my fabric, and I want to stop that stitch right there, right in its tracks. I don't want to wait until it finishes the rest of the stitch. I want to stop it. Well, you can do that by pressing and holding the reverse button. So let's try that. So again, you'll start stitching. Okay, and then at any point in time that I want, I can just press and hold that reverse button, and I'll start stitching again. All right, and you can see that once I pressed and held that reverse button, it just stopped. I mean, it didn't do any more stitching, right? It just stopped right away, gave you a few tacking stitches to lock off that design, and that's all you get, okay? Now, what happens if I press and hold the reverse button and then start stitching again? What does it do? Well, let's try that and find out, shall we? Okay, now I'm going to press and hold the reverse button. Okay, you can see that it took those tacking stitches, not stitching anymore, and now I'm going to start stitching again. Okay, I'm just going to stop here and cut my stitches, I should say, and bring it over so you can see what's going on here, which looks really weird actually because of where I stopped it. What it does is it stops stitching, it does those tacking stitches, right? And then if you press your foot pedal down again to start stitching or use your start stop button, it starts the design right from the beginning. So that's why you get this kind of overlap. It just happened to be where I stopped the stitching at that point in time. But where this is really handy using that reverse button is when you come to the edge. So let's say I'm coming up the edge here. Okay, and I've gone off the edge actually, so I'm just going to pick up my stitch. I'm just going to go back here. Let's just pretend I got here. Okay, let's say I'm about there. And I press my reverse button and hold it. Okay, it's going to stop right there. It's going to lock those stitches for me. And if I'd caught it soon enough, it would have prevented me from going that little bit off. But it's really handy when you come up to the edge of your fabric, because you really don't want that stitch to go on and you'd be stitching off the fabric on basically nothing, right? There's no point in doing that. And some of the stitches on the M17 and other Janome models can be quite long. So when you come up to the edge of your fabric or wherever you need to stop, just pressing and holding that reverse button will just stop it right there, lock those stitches too, which is also nice, right? And then you can just cut your thread and take it out. So whether you want to only have a certain number of repeats of that design, you know, maybe you just want to have one repeat of the design, use your lock button. If you want to stop that stitch in its tracks, press and hold the reverse button and it will stop and tie it off, and then it'll be all